You wake up and your jaw is tight. Not painful exactly, but sore, worked, as if you had been chewing something tough for hours. There is a dull ache spreading across your temples that is not quite a headache, and there is a stranger feeling underneath all of it, a sense that you slept a full night and it did nothing for you, that you are as tired lying there in the morning as you were when you got into bed. You go to the dentist eventually, because your teeth feel sensitive or a filling cracks, or the dentist spots the flattened, worn-down surfaces where your teeth grind against each other, and the dentist tells you what everyone gets told. You are grinding your teeth at night. You are a clencher. Here is a night guard to wear so you stop wearing your teeth down. That is where the conversation almost always ends. The problem gets filed as a dental problem, a jaw problem, a teeth problem, and the fix is a piece of plastic that sits over your teeth and takes the damage instead of them. But the teeth are not the cause. They are the casualty. Your jaw does not decide on its own to clamp down with enormous force in the middle of the night while you are unconscious. Something is telling it to. That something is your nervous system, and the clenching is not really a story about your teeth at all. It is a story about what your nervous system is doing during the hours you think you are resting. The grinding is a signal, coming from deep in your brain, and if you read it instead of just padding it with plastic, it tells you something important about the state your body spends its nights in. The question in the title has the arrow pointing one way, jaw clenching doing something to your nervous system, and by the end you will see it mostly points the other way too. The clenching is, to a large degree, your nervous system's nighttime state made visible. The two feed each other. My grandmother had a saying about people who ground their teeth, and it was not medical in the slightest. She said a clenched jaw meant a mind that had not put the day down. She meant it about the living and she meant it about sleep, that a person carrying too much would carry it into the night in their body, in their hands, in their jaw. She had no idea about arousal cascades or sympathetic tone, but the instinct behind the saying, that the jaw at night is holding something the mind did not finish holding during the day, turns out to be closer to the truth than a piece of plastic. Start with what actually happens in the moment you grind. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The obvious assumption is that grinding starts at the jaw. A muscle tightens, the teeth press together, and that is the event. The real sequence is nothing like that, and it is the single most important thing to understand about nighttime clenching. A sleep researcher named Gilles Levine at the University of Montreal spent years recording what happens inside the body in the moments around a grinding episode, wiring people up in sleep labs to catch the whole thing as it unfolded. What he found was not an event at the jaw, it was a cascade, a chain of things firing in a fixed order across the seconds leading up to the clench, and the jaw was the last link in the chain, not the first. Here is the order it fires in. First, the sympathetic nervous system surges. That is the fight or flight side of your nervous system, the accelerator, and it begins ramping up before anything else. A moment later, the heart responds, and heart rate climbs. Then the brain itself stirs, a flicker of increased brain activity, a brief partial wake-up in the middle of sleep that sleep scientists call an arousal. Then comes a breath, often a big one, a deeper inhale than the quiet breathing of sleep. And only then, at the very end of that sequence, do the muscles of the jaw fire and the teeth clench and grind. Sit with that order, because it changes everything. The sympathetic surge comes first. The heart, the brain, the breath, all of them move before the jaw does. By the time your teeth are grinding, a whole cascade has already run through your nervous system, and the grinding is the tail end of it, the last domino to fall after the ones you cannot feel have already fallen. So the clench is not the problem announcing itself. It is the visible end of a hidden event, and the hidden event is a micro-arousal, a moment where your nervous system briefly climbed out of deep, quiet sleep into a state of activation. The sympathetic accelerator hit the floor, the body lurched toward alertness, and the jaw clenching is simply the part of that lurch you can still feel in the morning, in a sore muscle and a worn tooth. This happens in clusters through the night, over and over, in the deeper and lighter stages of sleep, each episode riding on one of these little surges of arousal. A person who grinds heavily is a person whose nervous system is running this cascade many times a night, every night. It is worth pausing on how strange this is, because it separates nighttime grinding from the clenching some people do while awake. When you catch yourself clenching your jaw at your desk, tense over an email, that is a conscious muscle doing a conscious thing, and you can stop it the moment you notice. Nighttime grinding is nothing like that. You are unconscious. There is no thought, no decision, no awareness. The clench is being generated by deep, automatic machinery in your brainstem, the same ancient part of the nervous system that runs your heartbeat and your breathing without asking you. That is why you cannot simply will yourself to stop grinding at night the way you can unclench your jaw during the day. The command is coming from a level of the nervous system you have no conscious access to, and it is firing during the hours you are least able to do anything about it. And it raises the obvious puzzle. Why would the body build a jaw clench into an arousal at all? Why does surfacing briefly out of sleep come bundled with clenching the teeth? The honest answer is that this is not fully settled, and the leading ideas are still being worked out. One line of thinking is that the jaw activity is tied to the body's handling of the airway and the act of swallowing during these brief arousals, since the muscles involved sit right at the crossroads of breathing, chewing, and swallowing. Whatever the deep reason, the observed fact is solid and well documented. The clench arrives as part of an arousal, at the end of that fixed cascade, driven from below the level of conscious control, which means the real question is not why the jaw clenches. The jaw clenches because it is the last step of an arousal. The real question is why your nervous system keeps arousing in the first place, and what all that repeated arousal is doing to the sleep it keeps interrupting. To see that, you have to understand what your nervous system is supposed to be doing at night, and how different that is from what the grinding reveals it is actually doing. Sleep is not just the absence of being awake. It is an active, specific state that your nervous system is supposed to drop into, and the deepest, most restful part of it has a particular signature. During deep sleep, the calm side of your nervous system takes over. This is the parasympathetic branch, carried largely by the vagus nerve, the rest and recover side, the brake rather than the accelerator. When it dominates, your heart rate slows and settles, your blood pressure dips down below its daytime level, your breathing goes slow and even, and your body drops into its genuine repair mode, the state where tissue is restored and the system is put back in order for the next day. A healthy night is mostly spent here, in this deep, parasympathetic dominant rest, with the heart and blood pressure dipping down and staying down for hours. That dip is the whole point of the restorative part of sleep. Your cardiovascular system gets to run cool and quiet. Your stress chemistry gets to fall to its lowest level of the day. The accelerator gets to switch off, and the brake gets to hold, uninterrupted, for long stretches. Now put the grinding back into that picture. Every clenching episode, as the last chapter showed, rides on a surge of the sympathetic accelerator. So a night full of grinding is a night full of repeated sympathetic surges, each one breaking into the parasympathetic calm that deep sleep is supposed to hold. Instead of dropping down into that quiet, restorative state and staying there, the nervous system keeps getting yanked back up. The brake holds for a while, then the accelerator stabs in, the heart jumps, the brain stirs, the jaw clenches, and the whole system is briefly pulled up out of rest before it can settle back down, only to be pulled up again a while later. This is what the grinding is actually telling you about your nervous system. It is not spending the night in the deep, unbroken parasympathetic rest it is built for. It is spending the night bouncing, over and over, into brief states of sympathetic arousal, fight or flight micro-moments, scattered all through the hours that were supposed to be pure recovery. The teeth grinding is just the marker you can see. The real event is a night of fragmented, repeatedly aroused sleep in a nervous system that never gets to fully switch the accelerator off. There is a way to measure how well the calm side of the nervous system is holding, and it is called heart rate variability. the tiny variation in the time between one heartbeat and the next. Researchers, including Julius Thayer, have shown that stronger variability reflects a strong parasympathetic brake, and weaker variability reflects the accelerator running with less to restrain it. A night of repeated arousals tends to sit alongside a nervous system tilted toward the accelerator and away from the brake. The morning tiredness you cannot explain, the feeling that a whole night of sleep left you unrested, is what fragmented, sympathetically driven sleep feels like from the inside. The body was in bed for 8 hours. It was not in deep rest for anything like 8 hours. So the grinding marks a nervous system that keeps arousing all night. The obvious next question is, what keeps setting off the arousals? And this is where the honest answer matters most, because it is usually a sign of something else. If the clench is the last step of an arousal, then the thing worth finding is what triggers the arousals in the first place. And here the honest truth is that nighttime grinding is very often a downstream sign of something else going on, not a standalone fault in your jaw. There are a handful of common drivers, and they matter, because which one is behind your grinding changes what you should actually do about it. The first, and the one most people already suspect, is stress. A nervous system carrying a heavy load of daytime stress and anxiety tends to carry that load into the night. The accelerator that was running all day does not fully switch off at bedtime, the stress chemistry stays elevated, and a system already tilted toward arousal arouses more easily during sleep. Grinding is strongly associated with stress and anxiety, and for a lot of people the tight jaw in the morning is, quite literally, the day's tension showing up in the body overnight, exactly as my grandmother suspected. Part of that stress connection runs through a specific chemical. Cortisol, the body's main stress hormone, is supposed to follow a daily rhythm, falling to its lowest point overnight so the body can rest, then rising toward morning to wake you. In a nervous system under sustained stress, that overnight low never gets as low as it should. Cortisol stays elevated into the night, the system stays primed, and a primed system is one that arouses more readily, clenches more often, and settles less deeply. This is part of why a stressful period in your life often shows up, weeks later, as worn teeth and sore mornings. The stress did not stay in your head. It changed the chemistry your body slept in. The second is the one that matters most medically, and it is a breathing problem during sleep. When the airway narrows or briefly collapses during sleep, which is what happens in a condition called obstructive sleep apnea, the brain has to arouse to reopen it. It surfaces out of deep sleep, tightens the airway muscles, and takes a breath, and that arousal is exactly the kind of cascade that can set off the jaw. Grinding often occurs in tight association with these breathing-related arousals, which means that for some people, the nighttime clenching is the visible marker of an underlying breathing disorder they do not know they have. This is the single most important reason not to treat grinding as just a dental issue, because obstructive sleep apnea is a serious condition with real consequences for the heart and the rest of the body, and it needs proper diagnosis and treatment rather than a mouth guard. The third is reflux. Acid rising from the stomach during the night is irritating, and it can drive the same kind of arousals, which is why nighttime grinding and nighttime reflux often travel together. And the fourth is the set of things you put into your body, especially in the evening. Caffeine late in the day, alcohol before bed, and nicotine all increase nighttime grinding by raising the nervous system's arousability during sleep. Alcohol is a particular trap here, because it feels like it helps you sleep, and it does help you fall asleep faster, but as the body processes it through the night, it fragments sleep and raises arousals in the second half of the night, which is often when the grinding gets worse. Certain medications do the same, including some common antidepressants, which are known to cause or worsen grinding in some people. None of that means you should stop a prescribed medication on your own, but it does mean the medication is worth a conversation with the doctor who prescribed it. Be clear about how these fit together, because it is easy to overstate. These are mostly associations and triggers, things that raise the odds of the arousals that drive the grinding, rather than a single proven chain in every person. Nighttime grinding is common, affecting a real slice of the adult population, and it is more noticeable in younger adults and tends to ease somewhat with age, which is itself a clue that it tracks the nervous system's overall arousability rather than any permanent flaw in the teeth. The direction that matters for you is practical. Your grinding is very likely a signal pointing at one of these: stress, a breathing problem, reflux, or something you are taking, and the useful move is to figure out which, rather than to treat the jaw in isolation, especially the breathing one, because that is the sign you cannot afford to miss. That is the arrow running from your nervous system down to the clench. There is also an arrow running the other way, and it is worth seeing what the clenching does back. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. The jaw muscles doing the grinding are not small or weak. The masseter, the muscle you can feel bulging at the angle of your jaw when you bite down, and the temporalis, the fan-shaped muscle over your temple, are among the strongest muscles in the body for their size. They are built to generate enormous force for chewing, and at night, during a clench, they fire that force against nothing but your own teeth, over and over, for far longer than any meal would ever demand. That has a toll, and it runs in a few directions. The most direct is local. Muscles held in hard contraction, repeatedly, through the night, wake up fatigued and sore, which is the tight, worked jaw you feel in the morning. The temporalis muscle over your temple, clenching all night, is a classic source of the dull morning headache that spreads across the sides of the head, a tension headache generated by an overworked muscle rather than anything inside the skull. And the teeth themselves take the mechanical punishment, wearing flat, becoming sensitive, sometimes cracking, which is the part the dentist sees. The tension does not stay in the jaw either. The jaw and the neck are closely connected, through muscle and through the sheets of connective tissue that link them, and tension in one readily travels into the other. A clenched jaw at night and a tight, aching neck, and the band of tension at the base of the skull often arrive as a package, each feeding the other, which is why so many people who grind also carry stubborn neck and upper shoulder tension they cannot fully explain. And there is a feedback into the nervous system itself, which closes the loop. The muscles of the jaw are driven by the trigeminal nerve, the largest of the cranial nerves, which carries a huge volume of sensation from the face and jaw straight into the brainstem, into the same region that governs arousal and the automatic nervous system. Intense, repeated jaw activity is therefore a powerful stream of signals firing into the very part of the brain that controls arousal. The plausible consequence is a loop. The nervous system arouses and drives the clench, and the clench floods the brainstem with input that can nudge the nervous system toward more arousal. The teeth are the casualty everyone sees, but the fuller picture is a jaw, a neck, and an arousal system all winding each other up through the night. So the clenching is both a symptom of an aroused nervous system and a contributor to it. Taken together, the local muscle toll, the referred neck tension, and the feedback into arousal add up to the full morning signature so many grinders know well. The sore work jaw, the temple headache, the stiff neck, the sense of having slept without resting, and the worn teeth the dentist points at. Every one of those is a piece of the same night, and only the last of them is really about the teeth, which raises the practical question everyone actually wants answered. What do you do about it, and why does the usual answer only go halfway? Start with the night guard, because it is what almost everyone is given, and the honest truth about it matters. A night guard, a custom splint that sits over your teeth, is worth having, and it does one thing well. It protects your teeth. It takes the grinding force onto the plastic instead of onto your enamel, so your teeth stop wearing down and cracking, and for a lot of people that alone is worth the cost. But be clear about what it does not do. It does not stop your brain from arousing. It does not stop your jaw from clenching. Your nervous system runs exactly the same cascade it ran before, and your jaw muscles fire exactly as hard, they just do it against a piece of plastic now. The night guard is damage control for the teeth. It is not a fix for the thing driving the grinding, and it was never designed to be. If all you do is wear the guard, the arousals, the fragmented sleep, and the tired mornings continue unchanged, the actual fixes aim at the driver, the nervous system arousal, and they follow directly from the last few chapters. The first is to lower the load on the accelerator. Since so much nighttime grinding is tied to a nervous system carrying stress into the dark, genuinely winding down before bed does more than it sounds like it should. A real buffer between the day and sleep, away from screens and work and anything that keeps the accelerator running, gives the nervous system a chance to shift toward its calm side before you lie down. Slow breathing with a long, extended exhale is a simple and well-studied way to nudge that shift, because a long exhale directly strengthens the calming, parasympathetic side of the nervous system. A study by Balban and colleagues found that a few minutes a day of this kind of slow, exhale-emphasized breathing lowered anxiety and shifted the nervous system toward its calmer state, more than meditation did. Be honest that this is supportive rather than a cure, a way of tilting the pre-sleep state toward rest, not a switch that stops the grinding outright, but tilting that state is exactly the right target. The second is the one that could matter most for your health. If there is any sign of a breathing problem during your sleep, get assessed for it properly. Treating an underlying breathing disorder can reduce the grinding, and far more importantly, it addresses a condition that carries real risk to your heart and your health if it is left undiagnosed. This is not something to manage with a mouthguard while hoping it goes away. The third is to review the inputs. Cutting evening caffeine, alcohol, and nicotine removes some of the most common arousal triggers, often with a noticeable effect. And if you take a medication that might be driving the grinding, raise it with the doctor who prescribed it rather than stopping it yourself, because there may be an alternative or an adjustment worth considering. And if reflux is part of your nights, addressing that removes another source of the arousals. The theme running through all of it is the same. Treat the arousal, not just the teeth. The night guard guards the teeth. Everything that actually reduces the grinding works on the nervous system that is driving it. Put the whole picture together, and the title's question answers itself in a way most people never hear. Your jaw clenching at night is, more than anything, your nervous system's nighttime state made visible. Each clench is the last step of a micro-arousal, a moment where the calm, restorative sleep your body is built for gets interrupted by a surge of the fight-or-flight accelerator. A night full of grinding is a night full of those surges, a nervous system bouncing repeatedly out of deep rest instead of holding it, which is why the sleep does not refresh you no matter how many hours you spend in bed. The arousals are usually driven by something findable: stress, a breathing problem, reflux, or a substance or medication. And the grinding, the neck tension, and the arousal all wind each other up through the night. The teeth are the part you can see. The nervous system is the story. Now the safety line, because this is the part that matters most, and the part a mouthguard can hide. See a dentist and a doctor, not just one of them. If you have jaw pain, clicking or locking in the jaw joint, heavy tooth wear, or frequent morning headaches. And treat it as genuinely important to get properly assessed if you have any sign of a breathing problem during sleep, which means loud snoring, waking with a gasp or a choking feeling, anyone ever telling you that you seem to stop breathing in your sleep, or heavy daytime sleepiness that a full night in bed does not fix. Those are the signs that the grinding may be sitting on top of obstructive sleep apnea, which is a real medical condition that needs diagnosis and treatment, and which is dangerous to ignore. A mouthguard over undiagnosed sleep apnea protects your teeth, while the actual problem goes unaddressed. Do not let the visible casualty distract from the hidden cause. If any of those signs are there, the right first move is a doctor, not a dentist alone, and certainly not a piece of plastic. For everyone whose grinding is the more ordinary, stress and arousal kind, the takeaway is the one my grandmother arrived at without any of the science. The jaw at night is often carrying what the mind did not put down. She could not have told you about the sympathetic surge that fires before the clench, or the deep parasympathetic rest the arousals keep interrupting, or the trigeminal nerve feeding it all back into the brainstem. She just knew that a clenched jaw in the morning meant a person who had not found a way to set the day down before sleep, and that the fix was not in the jaw but in the mind and the life around it. The tension you can feel when you wake is a message about the state your nervous system spent the night in. It is worth reading, rather than just padding. Notice your jaw in the morning, then go looking for what is waking your nervous system in the dark. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.